once again, I have the privilege of welcoming a hero of mine. I've said of the other guests we've had today, when I was very small, I'd read these names of the Dalek operators and Dalek voices in the Radio Times.
Well, it's a great privilege to be here.
And it's great to have you here, Roy. How did you first get into voice work? Because you are something of a specialist, aren't you?
It is so complex. Well, not really. One day I was doing a television serial called Pinocchio, and I was playing Candlewick, and it was live. And one day at rehearsals, it dates me this terribly. I started to fool about and read the script with goon voices. The goons had just come out, and the director said, "They're wonderful. Let's use those voices." And I said, "You can't." Anyway, that was the end of that. But a month later, I got a phone call from a girl who said, this director had given my name, said that I did wonderful puppet voices. And I said, I've never done a puppet voice in my life. But said, I'm auditioning some puppets for the BBC. Would you do voices for them? So I came and looked at them, and I did the voices. The BBC hated them, absolutely hated the puppets. But then I got a phone call from a man called Gordon Murray, said, hated the puppets, but loved your voices. Will you come and do Toy Town and do Mr. Grouser and Dennis the Dachshund and that? And that's really how it started.
And was this the kind of work you were doing immediately before?
No, primarily, I was a stage actor. I'd done 3-4 West Ends, and I was a singer as well. I did Oh My Papa and Chrysanthemum and Wild Time at the Duke of York's.
Yes.
So I was primarily a stage actor.
Yes.
But then I did a couple of televisions, and then this television came up, and the voice work started.
Yeah, sure. Now, your first Doctor Who story was The Ark. How were you cast in that?
I'd met Peter Hawkins through doing this Toy Town television,
yes.
and Peter had recommended me. So that's how I came to do the monologue. Yes.
Now, presumably your work on The Ark led to you do the voice for the Cybermen in the 10th planet.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's quite an hysterical story, because I was asked to do that and find a sort of computer voice. So I did a computer voice. And it was hell at rehearsals. The poor actors didn't know what was happening, because if I had a line like, where are you going, will I meet you again tomorrow? It was, where are you going, will I meet you again tomorrow? And the actors never knew when I was going to stop, so it became very difficult. Yeah. So I did a couple of those, and then they changed the voices.
Mm-hmm. Now, your first Dalek story, I believe, was Evil of the Daleks?
Yes, I think so,
Yes. How did you become involved with that? What was your reaction when your agent said, do you fancy doing a Dalek?
Well, it wasn't, it as such wasn't even talked about as being a Dalek. Well, I know Peter Hawkins had rung up and said, again, a great friend of mine, and said, do I come and do this? And then we found out what it was, and that's how that happened.
What memories do you have of that particular story? Oh, it's such a classic. Of course, it's lost to us now.
Not very much, actually, now. It's so long ago. I have to say, you see, I'm very dated. I'm getting very ancient now, so all this happened an awful long time ago.
Now, the subsequent Dalek story to that was Day of the Daleks.
Oh, yes.
When the voices were perhaps a little off-key. But you were asked back for Planet of the Daleks.
Yes.
So suddenly you were the old hand. Were you asked to show Michael Wisher the ropes?
Well, yes, this is talking right out of school. Michael Wisher, lovely, lovely actor, great. The funny thing was, I was originally asked by the director to play Davros, and I couldn't do it because I was doing a program called Rainbow at the time. So I wasn't free to do, but they said, well, could you still come in and pre-record and do bits and pieces? So I sadly, and I do mean sadly, couldn't do Davros, and so I just did the voices. Having said sadly I couldn't do it, I saw what Michael Wisher did with it and thought, it's just as well I didn't do it, because he was absolutely brilliant. So.
And you worked with Michael again in Genesis?
Yes, indeed. We've worked quite a lot together, and matter of fact, we did, not voice work this time, we did Alice in Wonderland together. He played the Cheshire Cat, and I did the Mock Turtle.
With Davros becoming the spokesperson, if you like, for the Daleks, how did you feel about that? Did you think they needed a figurehead as such?
I don't know if I really thought about it in those terms. I mean, when I was offered it and came and I read the script, I thought, oh, this is wonderful. I thought the idea was absolutely magical, absolutely super. And it was.
Yes.
Great idea, yeah.
Yes. Now, more recently, of course, you've done the voices for the comic relief special,
Yes,
The Curse of
yeah,
Fatal
yeah.
Death. Is it like riding a bicycle? Is it something you can just slip back into?
The answer to that is both yes and no. It's not quite like riding a bicycle. You have to work at it, but it's such a joy to do
Yes.
that it's immense fun.
Yes, yeah. What are your memories from that? I mean, there was quite a bit of a furore made of that. You know, it was Doctor Who back on the screen. Albeit for
Well, I mean, it was just
very
so
short time.
it was just so quick. They rang me and said, "Could I?" And I said yes, and we'll send a car. And I went, so I didn't really know what it was or anything. I got a script, and then it was all people walking hello, and I had not seen before, and it was all so fast and so quick. And I suppose I was in the studio about an hour and a half.
Did you get the opportunity to mix with the likes of Rowan Atkinson or?
I never saw Rowan. I didn't see Rowan. I mean, I didn't see Rowan. I saw, forget who the other people were there, but I didn't see Rowan. Rowan wasn't there at the time. No.
Now, of course, over the years, the design of the ring modulator has changed.
Oh yes. Yeah,
Have you found that easier? Does it aid your performance?
Well, it does
Or-
aid, but there have been times when the damn thing's broken down, and we've actually done it without the ring modulator. It's not been quite the same, but yeah.
Now, have you become stereotyped, do you think, as just a voice artist?
Well, there are problems with this. I mean, I say fairly recent, 3 or 4 years ago, I did a rainbow, and they said, would I play Father Christmas as well? You see? So I said, yeah. I was doing the voice of Zippy and George, but they said, would I play Father Christmas? So I said yes, and Rod Burton, who was one of the composers, wrote a lovely big number, and he said, can you sing? I said, yes, of course I can sing it. So I sang this, and but the producer and the main casting director at Thames Television came out and said, that was wonderful. Who did you get? Who voiced you? That wonderful singing voice. Who voiced you? I said, no, it's me. Oh no, you're just a voice man. So this does happen. You know, you do get channeled and typecast.
Yes. Do we have any questions?
What was it? Did you enjoy your sort of time that you had in front of the camera? Obviously, it was different from behind the scenes you were doing with the Dalek voices and the Cyberman voices and things. Did you enjoy your time in front of the cameras on Doctor Who?
Yes, I did. Very much. I mean, sounds silly because I've been involved with so much voice work, but I'm primarily an actor. If you really want the absolute truth, my biggest love of all is theatre. I mean, and all my early career was theatre. I did tons and tons and tons of theatre. But it's like any other business. The theatre doesn't pay like a channel set up, and by accident I started to do voice works, and I became, luckily, quite successful at it, and so one can't turn down the work. But having said that, I've thoroughly enjoyed the voice work. It's been wonderful. It's been very good for me too. Very good to me.
Ray, have you done much acting work in front of the camera when you weren't under heavy makeup? What have you seen?
There's odd ones I did. I mean, I did an odd Doctor Who, strangely enough. I think it's The Green Death, when I was rung up at 11:30 at night and said, oh God, the actor's playing James has got appendicitis. Can I send you a script round? Could you do it first thing tomorrow morning? And a motorbike arrived at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning, and I read it and did that. Yes, I've done quite a lot. Primarily earlier days, much earlier days.
Yes.
The voice work did take over quite a lot. But I did Pinocchio, I did a couple of space adventure ones, playing a naval officer,
Yes.
and all sorts of things. But my television experience isn't desperately vast, but I've done quite a bit. But primarily a lot of theatre.
Any more questions, please? Gentleman there.
Hi. Has your voice ever dried up while doing the Daleks?
No. This is very strange, that, because people have said to me that, God, it seems so heavy and such force going into it, it must work your throat. But I think one of the things which I learned fairly early if everything is thrown forward, and the Daleks are very forward, they're right off the front of the turn, so you're not throwing it back in your throat here, which that could damage you, no. But no, I'm very, very lucky. No, thank you.
I know there's a gentleman here who wanted to ask a question.
Yes. I can't think what the question was now. Isn't it true that you always wanted to be the principal boy in pantomime? And a few years ago, you managed to get the part of the king when Rainbow was doing the pantomime in Hull. How did you enjoy doing that?
Oh,
I went to see that, especially just to see George and Zippy.
Yes, and I until recently, I mean, until this, 2 years now I've not done, but I did panto every single year. I've done that for 20, 25 years. When I was younger, I did play Jews and romantics in them, but very often I finished up doing character stuff. And with Rainbow, we were booked, Zippy and George were booked in, and so I wouldn't do it unless I said, right, I have to play a part as well. So I'd do a part and do the villain or whatever it was, and then dash off stage and grab a microphone and do the voices for Zippy and George, yeah.
Did you want? Yes. Gentleman here, please.
You've been the voice for the Daleks, you've been the voice for George and Zippy on Rainbow. It's kind of a bit of a scale that you've done, a beloved children's character and then this horrible monster. How does that feel? Does that feel a bit sort of schizophrenic?
Come on, Zippy's a bit of a horrible monster, isn't he? I mean, there's a lot of Dalek in the Zippy, isn't there, really? People have said that. No, I don't know. Within theatre or within the arts and things, I mean, I've always found anyway that the villains are the joy ones to play. They really are. They're a lot easier to play than the two goodies. And I'm never any good. I mean, as an actor, straight actor, theatre actor, I was never desperately good being near myself. If I could play something right away from myself, this is probably to do to. Somebody once said, did you develop an inferiority complex through becoming an actor, or did you become an actor because you had an inferiority complex? And I think with a lot of actors I know, you become an actor to get away from yourself, actually. And the villains and the way out characters are a joy to play, and you can let all the strings out what is underneath you. Yeah.
What was your favourite voice role?
My favourite?
Voice role.
Voice role? Yeah. If I'm honest, you see, I think, and I'm sitting here with a big Dalek thing, I think possibly Zippy is my favourite voice role, really, yeah. Although the other pleasure, I got some immense pleasure out of the Daleks, of going bananas with the Daleks, and I got great pleasure out of George within Rainbow, suddenly not being the softy and suddenly putting his foot down. That was fun. But I think, if I want to be totally honest, I think Zippy was the one I enjoyed more than anything else.
Anybody else? Someone at the back. We seem to neglect the back.
You did the voice for the Dalek that appeared in the Five Doctors story, but you weren't actually in the actual Peter Davison Dalek story a few months later.
Resurrection.
Resurrection, yes.
No, I probably wasn't. I think I couldn't. I don't know whether I was approached or not. I think I probably was approached, but I think I couldn't do it because of the schedule that I was already booked for with Rainbow. Because what actually happened with Rainbow eventually, I had a very big schedule on it because I was writing it as well towards the end. I mean, I wrote about 150 of those scripts as well. So my whole schedule was taken up in a big way with that towards the end. But it may be they didn't ask me. I'm not quite sure about that. But I did one with
Peter Davison.
Peter Davison, thank you. I did one with Peter Davison, yeah. I know I've done one with every Doctor, at least
I think that was the Five Doctors.
That was the Five Doctors, was it? Yeah.
The one the chap has just mentioned. Yeah. Have you ever been approached by any, a firm like Disney to do voiceover for any
I've done, yes, I've worked for Disney, yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I for instance, In Search of the Cat, I mean, Half a Sixpence, the film Half a Sixpence, well, it's known in the business as Half a Skelton, because I revoiced at least a third of all the characters in the film, including one tiny 30-second clip of singing for Tommy Steele, because he was in America and they had a deadline on it. So it's a bit of Tommy Steele is me in that. But I revoiced Grover Dale, who played his best companion in that. I did a lot. I've also, in Search of the Castaways, I sneezed for Wilfred Hyde-White. That was Disney. Because there was a wonderful setup on that he was meant to be allergic to cats, and there was a whole scene which they shot with a tiger creeping up round the back of him, and Wilfred Hyde-White's sneezes were, "Achoo, achoo." So I revoiced his sneezes. But that was quite hysterical, because then this was, somebody said earlier, do you get typecast with voices? Yes. Now the Disney man then said, oh, you're a great voice man, you're a great voice man, you do voice, you do noises. And he'd then ring up my agent and say, can you do cats? Can you come and do a cat for us? You know? And I said, no. And then you're like, Mr. Scott, can you come and do this parrot in this Disney film? So I said, yes, I'll do a parrot. And then he rang me and said, but this is an African grey. Can you do an African grey? It's absolutely true, I promise you. And I said, oh, thank God it's an African grey. It's one of the two that I can do. I said, you know. And I used to do a tremendous amount of, it doesn't exist to the same extent now, I used to do a tremendous amount of post-syncing on films. What very often used to happen in films, just talking financially now, that they'd employ an actor or an artist for a particular part. And if there was a line that was bad wind sound or bad noise sound on, if they got him back in to revoice, they'd have to pay half his daily rate. Now, if his daily rate was £2,000, he'd be in for 2 minutes for £1,000. But they could get me, and there was another couple of actors like myself, who were good at what we call post-syncing. And we would go in and they'd pay us £100, and we'd revoice that line and 5 or 6 other lines from other people. So that used to happen a tremendous amount. I used to do 1 or 2 of those every week. But they've altered things so much now that they can twitch and twist and things without going into all that.
Yes. What has been your most recent work?
My most recent work, I've not worked for some time now. I've got a big backup, so I've had to be very careful. But I've done some voice work. But what I'm doing now, I'm writing. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling some of my writing.
Yes.
But,
yes.
I've turned down Panto. I've just done a deal with Virgin on an advert with Rainbow in it. But other than that, very little.
Mm-hmm. What do you think was the secret of the Dalek success? Why do you think they've become such established icons?
It's very difficult to answer. I mean, the design is marvellous. I mean, it seems so simple, but it is absolutely stunning. But the nearest I can get to it is they're creatures that there's a tremendous love-hate relationship that happens with children. I've never forgotten once they said they were bringing some children into the studio, and there were 8 or 10 Daleks, and I think one of the people who was here today, John Scott Martin, got it, said, let's get it, I'll get him one of the Daleks. It was at lunchtime, you know, because his teachers were showing them round. And so he got in this Dalek, and I got on a mic, and I asked him to fix the sound on. So they say, now these are the Daleks, you see, and they're quite simple, and suddenly it moved, and I did, did the whole, and these kids screamed and ran. But the fascinating thing, within 30 seconds, they're all coming back, frightened, but they're coming back. This is what, I mean, this love-hate relationship was very, very, very strange. They couldn't keep away from them, even if they're scared to death. So I don't know. But it's very difficult with any, I'm getting verbal diarrhea, I'm talking too much. It's very difficult with anything. I mean, people ask about, this is not Daleks, but about Rainbow, and they said, why was Rainbow successful? I don't know. It's in some ways, it's the same sort of things with the Daleks. Rainbow, I think, touched the emotions in some ways. If you enjoy touch the emotions, it may be hate, it may be love, it may be fear, but it touched the emotions. And I think the Daleks do touch something up and down one's spine somewhere, which is, it touches the emotions. I don't know, I'm just guessing.
We're coming up to the end of our time, so I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions from the audience.
How did you get into the character of the Daleks?
Yes. How did I?
How do you get into the character of the Daleks?
I don't know. It's a difficult question to answer. One has read the script and one sees where the line is going with it and what it's going to lead to, what fear is going to happen from that, or what the reaction is going to be from it. So how do I approach that line to cause this fear and this reaction to happen? That's the nearest I can get to it, yeah.
Anybody else? One more?
Hello. Hi. Sorry to ask yet another question. I've been asking a lot today.
Right.
Over here. Over.
Oh, sorry. I've got a slide, yes.
In the first Tom Baker story, Genesis of the Daleks, right at the very end, there's a Dalek that's sort of explaining that, well, we're trapped in, but we'll get out of here eventually. And it's almost like a long speech for a Dalek. Did you sort of feel that, oh gosh, we'll sort of...
No, I think I remember the one. He gets very emotional, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Right at the end.
I absolutely love that. I think that's... It's very seldom I say this, because I see a lot of my stuff and think, oh God, I could have been better than that. We should have that. But I have to say, that one speech, I turned to my wife after and said, hey, I wasn't bad there, was it? That was quite good. Yeah, no, it was good to get, because you could... Me talking about emotions, things that touched you, they suddenly, in that particular speech, it suddenly felt, and it felt for me that there's a whole emotion thing coming through. That's a very valid point, a very interesting point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you ever get to voice the Cybermen again since the South?
No. Eventually, they voice themselves. The
Right,
actors,
yes.
inside, that's what I voiced up until then. Once they started to do their own voices, no, I didn't.
Well, we certainly hope it's not too long before we hear your dulcet tones emanating from the TV screens.
I hope not as well. And thank you very much, and thank you for
And
the
ladies and
question.
gentlemen, thank you to Roy Skelton. Thank you.